Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for spending some time with me or letting me spend some time with you, however that works when you're the one clicking on the things to click on, right? Speaking of which, don't forget to click on all the things you need to click on to make it easier for people to find us just like you did. You got to come up with various ways to say that, right? So there you go. And also, before I forget, and I do sometimes forget, books are available at authorjerrymitchell.com, or you can go to givegod90.com and follow the links from there. And so this shouldn't take long, but I will warn you, some of you aren't going to like what I say. And when I say something that I'm going to say, some people drop off for a while. That's okay. You'll get over it. Because hopefully when I say this, you're going to go back and you're going to look, you're going to go, oh, that is what that means. Today, I will say this to my Jewish listeners and even my Muslim listeners. This is mainly for my Christian folks out there. Okay. Just so y'all know. Just so y'all know. Yeah, I'm a little apprehensive about doing this, but here we go. The Christian church has developed a doctrine, and that doctrine says that the church has replaced Israel, or has replaced the Jews, as some people might say. It's actually part of their dispensationalism theory that really doesn't exist. And I've covered that before. I've done a whole thing on that. But as much as the church loves to preach from Paul's writings, they just love Paul. Sometimes I think they love Paul more than they love their Jesus. Oh, it's so sad to see that, but they do. And as much as they love to preach from Paul, they treat Paul like a smorgasbord. They really do. They want to pick and choose what they believe instead of taking from the whole thing, right? The whole meal. They're kind of like children. Right? You ever taken a child to an all-you-can-eat buffet? They look at the vegetables, they look at the meat, they look at the other stuff, and then they look over and they see the dessert table. And that's what they want. That's what they want. And Christians treat not only Paul, but much of the Bible the exact same way. I want the dessert, but I don't want to be healthy. Now, I was going to look at this from a different perspective. That's what I had planned, but it's not the way it worked out. So let's start with Paul's letter to the Romans, beginning in chapter 9, verse 6. It is not as though God's word failed, for not all who are descended from Israel are Israel, nor because they are Abraham's descendants are they all his children. On the contrary, through Isaac your offspring will be reckoned. So it is not the children of the flesh who are God's children, but the children of the promise who are regarded by God as his offspring. Now in verse 6, are you mad at me yet? In verse 6, Paul writes, not all who are descended from Israel. Now, of course, that's Jacob because he was named Israel after his all-night wrestling match, right? And he continues, not all Abraham's descendants are his children, meaning God's children. So how can anyone or everyone who is descended from Jacob not be part of the same family? They have his DNA, they have his bloodline, they have the family traits. They kind of look like him, right? In certain ways. What Paul is referring to has nothing to do with DNA, has nothing to do with blood, or any of the things that make somebody look like somebody else. Some of the Hebrew people, very early on, chose to rebel against the Creator, just like Adam did, just like Korah did, and there were others. And it's no different from what we see in families today. It's going on in families today, right? You know, the parent lays out the law. This is how you're going to live in my house. Children get older, go, I don't want to live like this. Maybe something else happens. I don't want to live like this. And they leave. They reject the family. Some go so far as to change the name. Their name, I should say. And that's what Paul's referring to. You know, the descendants who rebelled or rejected the Creator, who are no longer associated with them and don't want anything to do with them. But there's another aspect to this. Just like today, there are people who leave the family, but think they can enjoy the family name without being part of the family, right? Call them black sheep or whatever you want to call them. You know, they estrange themselves from the family while using the family name for their own personal gain. I've seen it happen. I know people like this. I know families that it's happened to. And that's why Paul uses his words very carefully here. Not all who are from Israel are Israel. He doesn't use Jacob's given name. He uses the name that God gives to Jacob. Not all from Israel are Israel. Not everybody is mine, says, thus saith the Lord. Right? He goes on to say that not all who are descended from the flesh are God's children, but it is the children of the promise who are his children. Huh? Now, the question that needs to be answered is, which promise is Paul referring to? And here's where people really like to pick and choose and try to run to the dessert table before getting the meal. Right? Christians, are you listening to me? Are you listening? You need to listen. In Exodus 12, Moses writes about the Passover and how to do it, who's eligible to be part of it. Verse 49, the same law shall apply to both the native and the foreigner who resides with you. What? Well, if the same law applies to the foreigner who joins with you, King James uses the word sojourn, that would mean that any of the Egyptians or anyone from any other place would be able to join the Hebrews if, and that's a big if, because there's a lot that goes on here, they're willing to follow the Creator's instructions. If you're willing, you can be part of this. You see, it was a commitment. It was a commitment, a big commitment, right? The door was always open for anyone who wanted to come in. And that same door was open to anybody who wanted to walk out. You could be part of the promise. You could not be. It was up to you. You're free to accept it. You're free to reject it. Paul reminds us what God said to Moses. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I have compassion. It is the Creator's choice to whom he is willing to show mercy or compassion. And here's the point, Christians. Again, are you listening? You need to hear this because I'm going to say it this way. You just plain got it wrong. You did. You did. Listen carefully. It is not the Israelite, the chosen people of God's promise, who needs to join your church. It is you as an individual. It is you as an individual who needs to become part of Israel, God's spoken promise, and accepting that promise. And that promise boils down to this phrase. It's repeated often in various ways. If you hear my voice and obey my commands, then you will be my people and I will be your God. Let me say that again in a different way. If, big if, because there's a lot that goes with it. If you hear the voice of the Creator, if you are willing to obey his commands, then, did you realize that's not free? Well, it is free, but it comes with a price. It comes with a price. You have to be willing to hear. Not everybody's willing to pay that price. You have to be willing to be obedient. Not everybody's willing to pay that price. It's contingent. It's participatory. If you hear my voice, if you obey my commands, then I will be your people, or you will be my people and I will be your God. That's the promise. That's the promise that our Creator has spoken for us to hear. If you're willing to hear his voice, if you're willing to be obedient, then you will be part of his promise, a child of his promise, and he will be your God. Have you ever wondered why, well, I've been praying, but nothing's happening? You're probably not part of the promise. You're not a child of the promise. If you pray and nothing happens, it's not because God said no. He's not listening because you're not in the family. It's that simple. It is his promise that separates the Israelite from the flesh, from being simply a recipient of DNA. It is that promise that separates a gluttonous, dessert-eating Christian from the one who is enjoying a wholesome, healthy meal and living a healthy life the way you're designed to live it. And that is what I want you to think about until next time. And until next time, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone. And I pray that after hearing this, you choose to be a child of the promise and part of God's family.